The hardest relationships to leave aren't the ones filled with screaming matches and obvious betrayal. It's the ones where you are loved with exceptional manners, while being slowly, quietly reduced into someone manageable. It's the terrifying moment you look across the dinner table and realize you no longer sound like yourself when you speak. For Lena, it didn't start with a fight. It started with a dinner order she never asked for. Ethan ordered for her before the waitress even looked up from the notepad. "She'll do the sea bass," he said. Lena blinked once. The waitress smiled politely. "And for you, ribeye medium rare." The woman walked away. Ethan loosened his watch and finally noticed Lena staring at him. "What? You ordered for me. You always get the sea bass here." "I know." A small silence slipped between them. Not loud enough to become a fight, just heavy enough to sit there. Rain crawled down the restaurant windows behind him. The city lights blurred gold against the glass. Ethan reached across the table and moved her phone away from the water glass before condensation could touch it. The gesture was careful, familiar. That almost made it worse. "You've been stressed lately," he said. "You shouldn't have to think after work." Lena forced a smile because he sounded kind when he said things like that. That was the confusing part. People only saw the kindness, not the exhaustion of being slowly reduced into someone manageable. The waitress returned with wine. Ethan thanked her by name again. He remembered everyone's names. Doormen, bartenders, valets. Meanwhile, Lena realized he hadn't asked about her presentation once. "You okay?" he asked, already checking his phone. "Face down afterward." "Again." Lena looked at the tiny crack running through the handle of her coffee mug. Her thumb rubbed over it automatically. 3 years ago, he bought the matching set after their first apartment. Back then, his attention felt like safety. Now it felt like surveillance with good manners. "You're quiet tonight." "I'm thinking about work." She hesitated. "About whether I still sound like myself when I talk." That finally made him look up. His forehead tightened slightly, confused more than concerned. "What does that mean?" Lena almost answered honestly. That every decision in their life somehow arrived wearing his voice first. Instead, she shook her head. "Nothing." Ethan relaxed immediately. The check arrived moments later, but he grabbed it before it touched the table. "Already handled." The waitress smiled at him again. Lena whispered thank you automatically. And she hated that she did. By the time they got home, Ethan was talking about moving to a larger condo uptown. Better investment, better neighborhood, better long-term value. Lena stood quietly near the kitchen counter, removing the pins from her hair one by one while he talked. He never asked if she wanted to move, only whether she preferred marble or quartz countertops. Then casually, while pouring cream into her coffee, he said, "Oh, dinner next Friday. My partners are bringing their wives." Lena looked up slowly. "I told them you'd come." Something cold moved through her chest. Not anger. Something sadder. The feeling of becoming a supporting character inside your own life. Ethan slid the mug toward her gently. "You still take 2 sugars, right?" Lena realized Ethan had stopped waiting up for her 3 Thursdays ago. Not because he said it. Because the hallway lamp used to be on when she came home late. Now the apartment was completely dark. She stood inside the doorway, holding her laptop bag against her chest, while her eyes adjusted to the silence. No television. No music. No how'd it go. Just the low hum of the refrigerator somewhere deeper in the apartment. Her presentation had been approved 20 minutes earlier. The entire team had applauded. One of the senior partners hugged her so hard her glasses almost fell off. And somehow the loneliest part of her night happened after that. Lena slipped off her heels quietly. That was new too. She used to walk naturally inside her own home. Now she entered carefully, like someone visiting a hotel room already occupied by another guest. Then Ethan's voice came from the darkness. "You missed dinner again." Not hello. Not congratulations. Just that. Lena looked toward the living room. He was sitting on the couch, illuminated only by the light from his phone screen. For a second, neither of them moved. And in that tiny pause, she felt something she couldn't fully explain yet. Not fighting. Not distance exactly. Something colder. Like the relationship had quietly changed shape without telling her first. Lena realized she'd been talking for almost a full minute before Ethan noticed she'd stopped. The silence stretched between them awkwardly. Not dramatic enough for nearby tables to notice. Just long enough to make her feel suddenly embarrassed for speaking at all. Ethan finally looked up from his phone. "Sorry, what?" Lena stared at him across the restaurant table. The candle between them flickered softly, reflecting against the untouched wine glass near his hand. "I said Maya thinks the museum might feature my designs separately." Oh, he nodded once. "That's great." But his eyes had already dropped back toward the screen. Something tight pulled low in Lena's stomach. Not jealousy. Loneliness. The kind that arrives while sitting directly across from someone who used to make you feel chosen. The waitress passed by asking if they wanted dessert. Ethan answered before Lena could speak, "We're fine." The waitress smiled politely and walked away. Lena looked down at her folded napkin. Small thing. But lately, their entire relationship seemed to be dying in small things. "You've been somewhere else for weeks," she said quietly. Ethan locked his phone immediately this time. "I'm sitting right here." "That's not what I mean." He exhaled slowly and leaned back in his chair, already tired. The movement hurt her more than anger would have. Like loving her had become emotionally inconvenient. "It's work, Lena." She nodded even though she didn't fully believe him anymore. Then his phone lit up against the table. "Claire." Neither of them moved. A message preview glowed briefly across the screen. "I hate how alone you sound lately." Lena felt her throat go dry instantly. Ethan grabbed the phone too quickly. Too carefully. The entire restaurant suddenly felt overheated. Forks clinked against plates somewhere behind her. A couple near the bar laughed too loudly. The air smelled like butter and wine and something burning in the kitchen. "You're talking to her about us?" Lena asked. Ethan rubbed his hand across his mouth. "It's not. About work." That landed. He looked away first. And somehow that hurt more than if he'd admitted everything immediately. Lena stared at him, trying to understand when emotional privacy had turned into emotional betrayal. "When did you stop talking to me like that?" Ethan's expression shifted slightly. Not guilt. Exhaustion. Because every conversation lately feels like you proving you don't need anyone. The words sat between them. Lena blinked slowly. There it was. The real wound underneath everything. Not another woman. Not even the messages. The fact that her growing into herself felt like abandonment to him. And suddenly, every strange moment over the past year rearranged itself inside her head all at once. The corrections, the decisions made for her, The quiet punishments whenever she succeeded. The way his affection always grew strongest when she was struggling. Ethan leaned forward, lowering his voice carefully. I miss who you used to be. Lena felt something inside her break quietly at that sentence, because she finally understood what he actually meant. Smaller. He missed her smaller. Lena texted Ethan before remembering she wasn't supposed to anymore. Made it home. Her thumb hovered over the screen, then slowly hit delete. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of her keys slipping from her hand onto the kitchen counter. For a second, she just stood there staring at nothing. Heartbreak was strange that way. It turned ordinary habits into tiny public humiliations nobody else could see. Lena opened the fridge automatically and froze. There was nobody to consider anymore. No Ethan complaining they were out of oat milk. No asking what he wanted for dinner. No quiet emotional calculations before making simple decisions. Just silence. She closed the fridge without taking anything out. The new apartment still didn't feel like hers yet. Half the room remained packed in boxes because unpacking felt too permanent. A lamp glowed softly near the window. That was all. Lena moved through the apartment slowly, still walking around emotional memories that no longer lived there. Then her phone buzzed against the counter. Ethan. Her chest tightened instantly. Not love exactly. Muscle memory. She answered on the fourth ring without meaning to. Neither of them spoke at first. In the silence, she could hear traffic behind him, a car door shutting somewhere far away. You took the mug, he said quietly. Lena looked toward the chipped coffee mug drying beside the sink. Out of everything they built together. That was what he noticed missing first. I didn't think you'd care. Another silence. Then Ethan exhaled softly. The apartment feels weird without you. Lena closed her eyes. 6 months ago, those words would have healed her instantly. Now they just made her tired. Not because she stopped loving him, because she finally understood how long she'd been surviving inside the relationship instead of living in it. She slid down slowly against the kitchen cabinet until she was sitting on the floor. The apartment stayed quiet around her. No tension. No monitoring. No waiting for someone else's mood before relaxing her own body. And somewhere underneath the grief, Lena noticed something almost frightening. For the first time in years, her nervous system was beginning to unclench. She designed this. Ethan turned toward the voice automatically. 2 men stood near the center display, studying Lena's architectural model beneath the gallery lights. The emotional detail is insane, one of them said quietly. It actually feels lived in. Ethan looked past them and saw her. Lena stood near the far side of the room, speaking to a woman holding a program booklet against her chest. Calm, focused, fully present inside herself in a way he hadn't seen for years. She laughed softly at something the woman said. Not the careful laugh she used to use around him. This one arrived naturally. For a second, Ethan felt something sharp move through his chest. Not jealousy. Grief. The realization that someone can love you deeply and still slowly disappear beside you. Lena finally noticed him standing there. Her body stiffened slightly from surprise, then settled. No panic. No visible ache. No performance. Just honesty. Ethan walked toward her carefully, like approaching something he once held too tightly. You look, he stopped himself. Different sounded insulting. Happy sounded selfish. Lena saved him gently, Hi, Ethan. The room hummed quietly around them. Soft music, glasses clinking somewhere near the back wall, rain against the windows again. Ethan glanced toward her design model. You were always this talented, weren't you? Lena looked down briefly before answering. I think I was just smaller when we met. The words landed softly. That made them worse. Ethan swallowed hard and nodded once, because defending himself suddenly felt exhausting. And Lena realized something surprising in that moment. She no longer needed him to fully understand the damage for her healing to feel real. That freedom almost brought tears to her eyes. Later that night, Lena stood alone in her apartment kitchen wearing oversized sweatpants and holding the chipped coffee mug beneath warm, running water. Months ago, Ethan had hidden it away because it was cracked. Now it sat openly on the front shelf beside everything else. Still imperfect. Still useful. Still hers. And somehow, so was she. Have you ever stayed too long with someone because their control looked exactly like kindness? How did you find the courage to grow bigger than the space they allowed you? Drop your story below. Every single one matters. If this story felt painfully real to you, subscribe to Breakup Diaries for more emotionally cinematic breakup stories about heartbreak, betrayal, healing, emotional transformation, and rediscovering yourself after love falls apart.